Today I'm going to show you guys how to make a flute patch that sounds like the flute or very similar to the flute from Golden Sun, the RPG series on the Game Boy Advanced. And to do that I'm going to use a Korg Minilogue, and I'm also going to use a Zoom G1 on FX pedal just because it's cheap, has a mono input which is fine for the Minilogue, and it has stereo out if you use a ring tip adapter, so you can split out the ring and tip into separate channels. Alright, to get started, the first thing we should do, especially on the Minilogue, is tune it. So there's two ways of doing that. The first way is to reset the actual synth by turning it on or turning it off and on, or just turning it on for the first time. It'll go through a tuning routine. And the second thing you can do, if it's been on for a while, I recommend this, is to hold down the shift button and press the record button. At the same time, you should see that the tuning indication comes up on the OLED screen. And the first thing we'll do after that is turn on Portamento. So go into edit mode and choose the fourth voice mode. And let's turn on Portamento to about 15. Now what this does is it gives it kind of a glide on the next note. It doesn't just immediately trigger the next note, it kind of slides to it. It's more apparent in like a mono or unison mode, but it works fine in a poly mode. So for the voicing mode, we're going to go ahead and stay in the poly mode, which is the default, and we're going to choose a init patch, which is just a sawtooth. And I have the effects turned off on my G1 on. We'll talk about those in the last step. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is look at the oscillator. We're going to go ahead and switch it to a triangle wave. Alright, it's now a triangle wave. Let's go ahead and switch the octave to 4. So it's a little higher. The next thing we're going to do is shape the amplitude envelope, and to start out, let's go ahead and add some attack. If you have parameter display enabled, it'll show you a number of what the parameter is set to, and that would help in this case because then you know what parameters I chose instead of just looking at the dial setting. So I'm going to add an attack. It's going to be around 300, so that's about 30% up on the dial there. Alright, then we're going to go ahead and add some release. So for the release, I'm going to add about 700, which is about 70% of the way up. Starting to sound kind of like a flute there. Let's go ahead and change the actual decay and the sustain as well. We don't want a full decay and full sustain like in a strings patch, which I generally use for that. So for the decay, let's go ahead and add about 600, which is 60% of the way up, and for the sustain, right around 500, which is around just like 50%, so right in the center. You can't hear too much of a difference here, but where it's going to make a difference is once I start adding noise into it. So the noise won't be as loud during the entire key press. Alright, let's go ahead and add some noise. So I'm going to add about 200 on the noise, which is about 20% up here, because it's out of 1024. So let's do that. Let's go a little higher than that, about 220. You can start hearing that breathy sound that a flute should have. It also makes it sound a little lo-fi, which is fantastic for a Game Boy Advance style game or any kind of old school or 16-bit RPG or even 32-bit RPG, because you have the space limitations that the consoles of the time really couldn't have full CD quality audio. Though of course the PlayStation and things like that could, but so the next thing we're gonna do is we're going to shape the second envelope, And we're going to change that envelope to actually affect the int rate of the LFO. So let's go ahead and do that. Switch this to int, make sure it's set to int. Let's make sure the LFO is set to a triangle. Let's add a lot of attack. So what I'm doing here, I'm adding a lot of attack because I want to have a delay on the LFO to kick in. So let's add about 85% or 850 here. You can't hear anything yet, but we'll hear that once I switch over the target. Let's add some release to the second envelope, make it pretty long, that way we don't have the envelope kick off on us before the amp envelope turns off. Alright, so let's switch this to pitch, the target, and we're going to change the int to around 20 or around 25. So what'll happen is, you'll hear, on the release, what we'll get now is vibrato, which sounds really neat. Okay, I feel that the noise is a little high, so we're going to turn the noise down just a bit. We'll turn it about to 200 instead of 250. So. Alright, we're getting there. Let's go ahead and shape the filter now. So we want to go ahead and shape the filter. We want the filter to be in 2-pole mode, so that's 12 decibels per octave. So we're now in 2-pole mode. We want to go ahead and close the filter a little. What we're effectively doing here is trying to make it sound more like an actual sine wave instead of a triangle wave, and we're getting there. Now we can turn the noise up a little, because effectively you're going to go ahead and start canceling out some of the noise from the filter being down or closed. It's starting to sound really nice. Just open the filter a little bit, maybe to about 800. So here, fully open. It's really bright, a little harsh, but at around 800 it just sounds nice. So let's go back to 800, it's around there. We can go ahead and change the shape of the first oscillator a little bit too. Just turn it up a little bit, maybe to about 160, make it more like a sine wave. Alright, we're just about there. That's about how I like it. And we'll go ahead and move over to our effects pedal. The first effect we want to add is a chorus, and the chorus that I'm going to use is the ensemble, which is just a really lush, really thick chorus. So I already have the settings to default here, and I'm going to go ahead and turn on the effect so you can go ahead and hear it. Just adds such an expansive sound to everything. It just widens the stereo field. Obviously we're getting a stereo effect now, even from a mono synth, because what we're doing is basically just we're adding a delay on top of the audio, and it's for both channels, so get a nice wide image. So the next thing I like to add, I just always love to add delay to almost every patch. There's some cases I won't add a delay, but in almost every case I will add a delay. So let's go ahead. I'm going to use the HD Hall here on the G1 on. You can use a plate reverb or just a hall reverb, or even a church reverb would be nice. It kind of gives that ambiance to everything. So let's go ahead and turn it on. Here it is with the HD Hall. This is just the default settings again. octave here. That's the overall octave. Just sounds really nice. Just starting to sound. Getting a little bit of note stealing there because it's only a 4 note of polyphony synth, but you get that JRPG feel of a flute. So I hope that helps somebody out. It's just a nice flute to add to your JRPG mix if you're making a game, or just really any kind of music like that.